Do you feel like your English proficiency hasn't improved for quite some time, aka you're 吃老本? You know you want to improve something, but you don't know what to do to fix it. I have to be honest, my English proficiency stagnated for quite some time before, but then I managed to get it fixed, to get it changed with several shifts. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. I want to share what stopped me in the first place and what I did to make this change. Let's get into this. The problem that stopped me was my false belief that your college major somehow determines your future, right? At the time, I was studying a major that had literally nothing to do with the English language. And most people around me were not very good at it at all. So naturally, I started questioning whether English could be even a little bit useful for me in the future. But looking back now, I realized how narrow and naive that idea was, because later I got to know something, that English is not just a study, it is a tool in essence. So practically, this is a tool that almost everyone can benefit from. I am convinced of it right now. At the same time, I wonder why I would waste the years of effort that I have already poured in. When I finally made up my mind to take English seriously and started researching better learning methods, things began to change. And this is how I did it to make it from a literally nobody speaker to a confident speaker like this right now. So the first thing was actually to address my false mental assumption, as I mentioned before, by believing that English would always be useful in my life, regardless of where I live, or what kind of job that I do in the future. Not because it would necessarily make me rich or famous, but because it allows me to get the access to high quality, diverse information online, communicate with people around the world, or something like this. The second shift was practical preparedness. Yeah, I began to draw a serious study of reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and all the basic shit. So let's talk about what benefited me the most for each category. So for reading, I began studying magazine passages and articles in serious textbooks or something like that. Instead of skipping difficulties, I forced myself to really break down, to analyze complex sentence structures. I started to take courses of intensive reading of some of the big-ass English textbooks out there. Writing was another big change. Instead of opting for exam preparedness templates, I started taking writing much more seriously. Writing my diary entries in English is one of the things that I start with. Sometimes I spend 2 or 3 hours writing a single essay, writing a single story, because I try to apply sentence patterns and writing techniques that I have learned from reading. I also decided to take on my weak listening. In the past, whenever I missed a word while listening, I would simply just ignore it and move on. But those missed words were actually the exact places where my problems were hiding. So I started practicing dictation like what I showed in previous videos. My speaking ability relied heavily on imitation before. My pronunciation and rhythm were decent because I practiced imitation a lot, but I didn't really have my own way of expressing ideas. So I began pushing myself into more challenging environments, like prepared speeches, impromptu speeches, and debate. Prepared speeches showed me that I wasn't a strong writer or speech deliverer yet. Impromptu speeches pushes me even further because they tested not just pronunciation but also thinking ability. The debate was even more challenging. It required knowledge, logic, and quick thinking. The third shift was actually what I called the intellectual shift. As I continued learning, I realized that the biggest barrier to fluent English wasn't actually English itself. The real limitation was knowledge, thinking ability, and life experiences. I wasn't a hungry reader, and I wasn't really curious about the world either. So I began reading more serious English materials like magazine passages, like books, nonfiction or fiction. Before my junior year in college, I had read zero original English books. After that, I gradually read dozens. All the great works, all the great books, and all the genres that I explored made me know more about the world, pushed me to learn how to think, how to organize, and how to connect my ideas. And that's a huge step forward. It is something beyond word description in a very short video like this, but this is exactly one of the most important things to do. So that's my story of how I fixed my long-term English stagnation. These shifts took maybe 3 years to be delivered, so I'm confident that if you're serious about this, you can do the same. And in even shorter period of time. I'm Shawny English here. Remember, happy learning, and I will see you in the next video.